Thank you so much, Michelle. I think it's a really nice segue into our next talk, which is Jess Mills. Jess is a health outcomes researcher who has been involved in a variety of research, mainly in the UK, and with a special interest in MS. Jess has been a volunteer for us for a while, and she's supplied us with some wonderful resources on yoga and meditation. So we really look forward to your talk as well, to complement the great advice that we've just had from Michelle. So thank you both.
Pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Nicola. My name's Jess, and as Nicola mentioned, I am a health outcomes researcher and a volunteer with MS Auckland. And I have a particular interest in ways that we can enhance well-being in MS using mindfulness and meditation techniques. So I'm really honoured to be asked to speak as part of this wonderful webinar series that's being organised by MS Auckland. I hope you'll enjoy the talk today and that you get to enjoy all the other amazing talks that are happening over the coming weekends. I was part of a research organisation in the UK where I basically studied for 4 years. I studied various health outcomes in MS. So in particular, walking ability, we sort of really dived into sort of the patient's perspective, or the perspective of difficulties or challenges with walking ability in MS. And we also did some work on upper limb function in MS. So over the 4 years that I was part of the MS research team, I got to meet some truly incredible people. And when I moved home, I decided I'd really like to volunteer for MS Auckland. It's such an amazing organisation. You know, there's some really incredible people that are part of the service, and I think the variety of webinars that are being put on over the coming weekends shows just the huge variety of ways that MS Auckland supports people living with MS. So I'd like to start our talk today by actually inviting everyone to first take a moment to connect in with themselves and basically the present moment. So I'm going to ask that everyone close down their eyes for just a moment. And I'm going to guide us all through 3 deep breaths together. So we're going to focus all our attention onto the experience of our breath, just for 3 breaths. So whenever you're ready, I'd like you to take a deep breath in, filling the lungs and the tummy, taking the deepest breath in you've taken all day, and then slowly releasing all the way out again. Try tuning into perhaps where you feel the breath the most prominently. So it might be at the nostrils or in the chest or the belly, but just focusing intently now on the experience of the breath. So we're going to take 2 more deep breaths together. So whenever you're ready, inhaling deeply in, feeling the body expand, and then releasing all the way out again and feeling it contract. And when you're ready, we're going to take 1 final deep breath together, just bringing us all into this virtual space and grounding us in the present moment before we begin our talk today. So when you're ready, a deep breath in, and then letting it all out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come join me back on screen. So thank you for allowing me to guide you through some deep breaths to bring us into this space today. So basically, what I'd like to touch on today is 3 things. So firstly, I'd like to talk about what mindfulness and meditation actually are. Then we're going to talk about why these might be important for people who are living with MS. And then we're going to touch on some ways that we can try and incorporate them into our lives. So some practical ways that we can start to practice mindfulness and meditation. I've had my own practice, my own meditation, mindfulness practice for about 14 years. And over that time, I've experimented with all different methods and techniques, and there's so many different ones out there. So I've experimented with a lot of different ones, but I've always found that incorporating some form of mindfulness and meditation into my life has been a really incredible asset. It's helped me through some really difficult times in my life, but it also helps enhance my life when things are flowing really well. So I think mindfulness and meditation is such a beautiful tool for anyone. So what is mindfulness and meditation? Well, so we'll start off talking about what these actually are. So the terms often are used interchangeably. So you can kind of hear mindfulness and meditation sort of thrown about together. But mindfulness simply means being aware of the present moment. So it's just whatever we're experiencing and noticing that. It's not about trying to change what we're experiencing. It's just seeing how we're feeling and what we're experiencing without judgment or without trying to change anything. So mindfulness is not about pretending everything's okay, especially when we feel like they're not. It's more about learning to accept things as they are, as best we can in the present moment. So, often our minds are so busy and they're often worried about things that haven't happened yet. So constantly worrying in the future, or on the flip side, they're ruminating on things that we cannot change that have happened in the past. And when our minds are living in the past and the future, we miss out on what's happening for us in the present moment. So we often, miss the full spectrum of life that's happening for us right now because our minds are busy worrying about other things. So I think sometimes mindfulness can also sort of be misconstrued as being a bit fluffy or spiritual, but a really good way I like to think of it is that it's more a method of observing our thoughts and feelings and our perceptions in a more helpful way. So it doesn't have to be this esoteric kind of spiritual thing. If that's not your sort of thing, that's totally fine. It's more about learning to observe our thoughts and feelings. So that's mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to the present moment, whereas meditation is a practice we can use to become more mindful. So meditation often refers to a formal practice, and it's a way that we can enhance awareness of ourselves, our minds, our thoughts, and our environment. So meditation has been practiced for millennia, and it was primarily practiced in Eastern traditions and then spread out into Western society, and basically it's sort of blossomed and it's now used as a therapeutic modality all over the world. There are so many different forms of meditation these days. You have mindfulness of breathing, which we all just did together at the beginning. So literally just learning to focus on your breath. And that's something we'll touch on again later. I'm going to offer another practice later on that you can use to practice mindfulness of breathing. There's also loving kindness focused meditations, mantra meditations. There's all sorts. So there's lots out there to explore and try. And I always encourage people to give them all a go and find a meditation practice that feels right for you, because there are so many out there. So that's kind of what mindfulness and meditation are. So I guess the next thing to touch on is why would we want to practice these? Why are they so important for people with MS? So firstly, I think the first thing to touch on is that there's a huge growing body of research on mindfulness and meditation, and just the number of benefits to practicing them are so varied. There's been studies that show that meditation and mindfulness can help lower blood pressure, decrease anxiety and depression, increase quality of life, improve sleep is another really big one that has been shown to be improved through meditation and mindfulness practices. And there's actually also been some really amazing neuroimaging studies conducted that have shown structural changes to the brain's grey matter following a meditation course. So basically they can see that there's physiological changes happening when people complete an 8-week meditation course. So that kind of suggests that meditation and mindfulness can help with neuroplasticity, the creation of sort of new helpful neural networks in the brain. And in particular, some of these studies have sort of shown that the left prefrontal cortex has an increased density, which the left prefrontal cortex is sort of known to play a role in the regulation of negative emotions. So, so there's a huge variety of scientifically proven benefits out there now. And for people with MS specifically, there's also some really amazing research studies that have been conducted, and they've shown things, you know, such as improvement in fatigue, depression and anxiety again, stress, a better sort of quality of life, and also mindfulness training has been shown to improve people's sleep in MS as well. So there's a whole bunch of literature out there that and research that's specifically dedicated to MS. So and there is a talk that I gave that was recorded and it's on the MS Auckland website that does dive into all that research a little bit more in depth. So if anyone's interested, check that out. Which, yeah, that's a great resource that's up on the website, so check that out. So one of the sort of the most important things that I think mindfulness and meditation can sort of help us with, or one of the key reasons why we want to practice, is that mindfulness meditation has an amazing impact on how we handle stress. So stress can cause a huge amount of issues in our bodies and our minds. And stress is also, there's been research to suggest that stress can also have an impact on relapses in MS. So when a stressful event occurs in the body is basically flooded with hormones to avoid or confront the danger that it's perceived, which is, it's commonly referred to as the fight or flight response. And so basically we can develop strategies to basically ignore or deny stress, which is sort of called avoidance coping. So we can distract ourselves and ignore things, which can be really effective in the short term, but often has long-term health implications and can impact our happiness in the long term. So there's been research to suggest that present moment awareness, which is the key feature of mindfulness, actually helps us increase our resilience to stress and can help us sort of, it promotes more effective ways of coping with stress. So there's been research that basically showed participants who had higher levels of mindfulness were less likely to rely on things like denial, self-blame, disengagement, those types of coping strategies. But whereas they're more likely to use positive strategies such as information gathering or planning or seeking out social support. So there's been some research into that as well. So another really important reason why we may want to practice mindfulness and meditation is that it can help us deal with any pain or altered sensations we experience. So the sensations may still be there, but by learning to, or like training ourselves to observe them non-judgmentally and feel less scared or worried about our altered sensations or pain, we can start to remove the fear or anxiety that we have around that. And there's an amazing meditation technique called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is it's called MBSR for short. And MBSR was it was developed by a scientist called John Kabat-Zinn, and he developed the MBSR course specifically for people who have chronic pain or illness. Basically, it's an 8-week program, and it was so sort of successful and popular that it's taught all around the world now. I recently attended a course earlier in the year, and that's sort of an amazing method for people that are experiencing pain or anxiety. The 8-week MBSR course is a fantastic course. I would highly recommend it. And there are links to the available MBSR courses in New Zealand on the presentation I gave on the MS Auckland website. But yeah, so basically mindfulness meditation can also help us deal with pain and altered sensations, which is, you know, a really amazing tool to have as well. And I think it's sort of important to sort of, you know, mention that, I guess, it's when something unexpected happens in our lives, it can feel very overwhelming. You know, like we're losing control. And I guess, you know, the COVID situation that we've all been experiencing is a really great example of that. When we face those sort of big challenges in life, it can feel very scary and overwhelming, and we can, you know, it can naturally lead to increase in anxiety and worry. And mindfulness as a tool offers us it offers us ways that we can learn to live with that uncertainty. And it does that by reminding us that all we have is the present moment. So we can't change the past, and we can't change the future. The only thing that we can impact now is the present. And as we start to live more mindfully, we start to dwell more in the present. So by using techniques such as meditation and mindfulness practice, we can start to sort of change our thinking habits, and sort of work towards having a sort of a healthier mind. And it's not that you won't have negative thoughts, but you learn to become aware of them as just passing thoughts. So there's a term we use in mindfulness called non-attachment. And basically when we meditate, that's what we're practicing. We witness our thoughts and then we let them flow by. So it's learning to not attach to things. And I think by doing that, we can create spaciousness in our lives and a calmer mental state. We can open our minds up for, you know, room for new perspectives, and just sort of the opportunity to maybe experience the full spectrum of life that's occurring in the moment for us. So there are so many reasons why we would want to practice meditation and mindfulness. There's, you know, there's obviously all the scientifically proven outcomes, which are wonderful, but also it can really help us just to feel more in control and feel happier and present. So that's sort of why we would want to practice mindfulness and meditation, and perhaps start to incorporate some of these practices into our lives. So I guess that's sort of a good opportunity for us to move on and sort of talk about ways that maybe we can start to incorporate some of these mindfulness and meditation practices into our lives. So the first thing I always recommend is trying to incorporate some form of meditation practice. You can start incredibly small. It's not about the length of time. You can even just do 1 minute or 30 seconds to start with. It's more about starting to incorporate the practice into our schedules and into our daily lives. So start small and then slowly, gradually increase the time that you meditate as you start to become more familiar with it and feel more comfortable with the practice. Sometimes the traditional sort of classes can sort of have you sitting there for long periods of time. And, you know, if we're experiencing fatigue or pain, you know, sometimes that we don't want to sit there for half an hour, 20 minutes. So there's actually there's evidence to suggest that even just short periods of meditation are extremely effective. So it's just about doing what feels right for us and what we can manage. So I also like to remind people that when starting meditation or trying to incorporate it into your lives, just to remember that as with anything, it does take time to establish a practice. So don't be hard on yourselves. If you can only manage it 1 or 2 days a week to begin with, it does take time to establish a practice. And one way to overcome that, I feel, is by setting up a regular time to meditate. So for me, I like to meditate first thing in the morning when I wake up, before I do anything else, and last thing I do before I go to bed. So try to find a time in your day that suits you or feels right for you. And, you know, one way you can do it is setting an alarm to remind yourself time to meditate, or when your morning alarm goes off, just, you know, taking a few minutes to connect into the moment and ground yourself before you start your day. And another really great thing another really great tool to use as you start to incorporate meditation practice is to use an app or a guided meditation. So I highly recommend an app called Insight Timer, which is a wonderful free app. It has all sorts of guided meditations. You can choose the length of time you would like to do. You can choose different formats. You can just time yourself. They have a timer on there. So that's a really wonderful resource. Another few really great apps that you can use are Headspace and Calm. Those two apps, I believe, have introductory courses that are free, but they do end up costing. But there's also some really great resources online. So MS Auckland website has some really wonderful resources around mindfulness and meditation, and the Overcoming MS website as well has some guided meditations on there, some pre-recorded guided meditations. So that's another really great resource to check out. So at the beginning of our talk, we all practiced a short mindfulness of breath exercise. And that's one of the most popular mindfulness meditation techniques. So all it is focusing on your breath. So it can be done anywhere, anytime. You can do it in public because no one knows you're doing it. You can do it for 30 seconds. You can do it for however long. That's what's the amazing thing about mindfulness of breath is it can be done anywhere for any length of time. And tapping into our breath can be sort of our regular go-to mindfulness practice as we start to incorporate some of these techniques into our lives. So perhaps when you're feeling you'd like to calm your thoughts down a little bit, or you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, taking a moment to connect to the breath is a really wonderful tool. So there's a practice that I'd like to introduce to you all today, and it's called the STOP practice. So it's an acronym, STOP. So S stands for stopping, T stands for taking a breath, O stands for observing, and P stands for proceeding. So you can do this any time of day. You can do it for, like I said, 30 seconds or 5 minutes, depending on how much time you have. You can sprinkle it throughout your day. And basically, to start off with, you just stop and pause, exactly like we did at the beginning of the talk. We just stop and we just pause for a moment. So we can close down our eyes, or you can even keep them open if you prefer. And then we take a deep, full breath and we fully tune into the sensations of that breath. So, you can, like I said, you can try and notice perhaps where you feel the breath most predominantly. For me, that's usually in my belly. So that's where I focus my attention. And you basically just fully focus intently on the sensation of the inhalation and the exhalation. Then observe, you start to perhaps observe maybe sensations you're feeling in your body, or where your mind is at today or in the moment. So, what thoughts are you having? What emotions are you experiencing? Just observing what is happening for you in that moment. So just taking a moment to connect in with ourselves. And then proceed, P for proceed, is proceeding then with some awareness and some kindness to yourself. So checking in with yourself and saying, what is most important for me right now? What do I need to do in this next moment? And how am I going to proceed from this moment forward? So the STOP practice is such an awesome way to slowly start incorporating mindfulness into your day. Because mindfulness is just about bringing ourselves back into the present. And there's so many ways we can do that, but the breath is a really awesome way to introduce it to ourselves and slowly become more aware of what's happening for ourselves and in our bodies and the world around us. So another really sort of great sort of thing to touch on with mindfulness and sort of bringing it into our daily lives is we can use 3 things. So we can use our bodies, we can use the world around us, and we can use our minds. So by using our bodies, we can tap into our senses. So what are we hearing? What are we tasting? What are we seeing? What are we feeling? Same with the world around us. What can I see? What can I hear? And what can I feel? And we can use these cues to help bring us back into the present moment and bring our thoughts and our minds back to the present. And then our mind is the same. What thoughts am I having? How am I thinking? What state is my mind in this moment? So we can use those cues to help us start to become more mindful. And another really great thing you can sort of do around those is try and pick one activity to do mindfully for a full week. So it could be something like brushing your teeth, or taking a shower, or opening a door. Try and do that activity mindfully for a full week, and it's really interesting. It's way harder to do than you would think, but starting off by just picking one thing and focusing on that and trying to do that more mindfully throughout our week is another really great way we can slowly start to train our minds to be more mindful and be more in the present. And I did also, in my presentation that I did give earlier in the year, that's on the website, I did outline some more ways that we can start to incorporate some mindfulness practices into our lives. Another really great one that I really sort of enjoy doing myself sometimes, and I always encourage people to try as they start to incorporate mindfulness, is try mindful eating. So basically sitting down and being fully present with your meal, no scrolling on your phone, no watching TV or not working while you're eating, just being fully present with your meal and experiencing the sensations that come with that. So the tastes, the feelings, everything that comes with eating, the full experience. So that's another really awesome way that we can start to incorporate some mindfulness, is just tying it to some of these daily habits that we have. So that's kind of all I wanted to share today. I did actually want to end, what's the time? Oh yeah, well, that will give us some time for questions. So I did have a poem actually that I wanted to finish with today that was part of the MBSR course that I attended. It was read out to us, and I really like it. I think it's a really beautiful poem, and so I thought I'd share that to end our talk today. So it's called Allow by Donna. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist the tide, will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in. The wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. When loss rips open the doors of our heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth. In the choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes. So thank you so much for listening to me and listening to me talk about mindfulness meditation. I'm not sure, we've got a bit of time, so I'm not sure if anyone had any questions. But yeah, thank you.
That was such a powerful poem, Jess. I haven't heard that before, and also your talk is just so appropriate for all of us at the moment under the pressures of lockdown. So thank you so much.
No worries.
I see there's a question here. I find meditation makes me really sleepy, so I've been doing sleep meditation to help sleep every night. I always fall asleep before it finishes. Is this still effective?
Definitely. So if you're using a sleep meditation to help you sleep and you nod off, that's wonderful. If, however, you're trying to practice and you notice you're falling asleep and it's the morning or it's a different time of day and your goal is not to fall asleep, I would encourage you to try ways to overcome that. So a really great way is to try being seated rather than lying down if possible, and sort of remaining they call it like an alert awareness. So remaining alert can sort of help us stay awake. But if you're using meditation to help you sleep and you're nodding off, that's perfect. That's what we want. So yeah, meditation is a really great tool to help us sleep.
Are there any more questions? otherwise we'll close off for the day. Just a reminder that our next session, which is the same time next Saturday, Tatiana will give an overview of MS Auckland services. We'll hear from nutritionist Katie Boyd, and also stories from some of the wonderful people with MS in our volunteer team. So it doesn't look like there are any further questions or comments. Thank you so much, Jess, and Michelle and Fiona and Rochelle behind the scenes, and to all of you, our participants, for taking the time out of your day today, out of your Saturday, and we really hope to see you